Hello. I get to start the show because I think I made it on time today. I was only 1 minute late and Ani waited for me.
No, you told me 5 minutes. You were here early, technically.
Look at me. See? That's what I have to do with you is I have to just say actually 5 minutes sooner than I think I'm going to be here. But anyways, welcome to Big Money Stylist podcast, episode number 28.
Yeah, 28.
28.
Oh my God, that's so many.
That seems like a lot. I'm excited to be we're on episode 175.
Episode number 3098.
Oh, that's intense. But what's our topic today is on profit?
Yeah, profit.
There's too many P's, and I just get them mixed up.
I feel like soon we're just going to be like, there's no P word today. We're just going with whatever topic we want to talk about.
Whatever we want to talk about. Just know it's good stuff, and it's on business. And if you're specifically a hairdresser, you might find some value in this show. But even if you're not a hairdresser, I think if you're an entrepreneur, a businessman, or woman, that you might enjoy our spicy topics as well as our topics that we try to add value.
Yeah.
We always try to
add value every week.
We do, but sometimes, especially if you watch ones when it's just me and Ani, I think we we get riled up, and then we're like, where's Val? She's not here today. But she's our calm to the storm. So I'm going to apologize now for anything that's said on this show, okay?
Do we want to start with the jokes and things that was called this week? Because I got some funny ones today.
Oh, kind of.
We are officially starting to sell tickets for BMS Convention 3, and in less than a week, we are well over 100 tickets sold. So it is
already?
Yeah, it's been
Sweet.
Hustle mode inside BMS.
And you guys just sold out all the fall classes.
Yep, the small classes, BMS intensives, completely sold out.
I've gotten so many emails of people almost angry. They're like, you said you'd save me a spot. I was like, I'm sorry.
I said I'd put you on the wait list, but in one day, Val got 400 text messages.
I know. Okay, if you guys don't know, we interview everybody for our small intensive classes to make sure it's a good fit because it's not your regular hair class. It's super intense, so we want to make sure the vibe's good, the energy of the class is good, everybody's there for the right reasons. So we personally, I do not. Do you, or is it just Val?
Now it's just Val. It was her and I last time.
So Val does the calls. And it's funny because she uses her personal cell phone, and she now told us after this one that she's going to need a new phone. I was like, I would suggest that. And for him here, I think we need a special phone for events.
That's my bad. I know. I think we might actually have to get a BMS number and cell phone because it's getting...
Can't you do that? Can't you just get a number for something for a minute and then get rid of it, or no?
Oh, I think you can for sure. I know Google Voice does something that.
Yeah. There's got to be a way around it where you can actually use your phone.
I think that was the problem, though. It was her phone, and all of a sudden she told me it was dying every couple hours because people were messaging nonstop.
Yeah. She was at the salon one day with me. She's like, oh my God, I have 225 text messages. I was like... Oh, I got overwhelmed for her.
One of the chats.
Hurry, throw in the garbage.
You don't need a phone. It's fine. One of the chat messages inside of Mastermind, I logged in one day, 1,092 missed messages. And I was like,
what do you do?
Bear in mind, this group is 20 people. I commented and I go, I am reading none of this.
You guys seem cool.
I'm like, if you guys need me to answer something, I'm gonna need you to put it in your big pod, not in the chat anymore.
Yeah.
Another group, 498 missed messages. I'm like, you guys are chatty, but I like it. I'm like, I want you guys
to. It's positive. You know what I mean?
They're just helping each other. One group, we'll talk about it today in the live training. They actually were like, okay, let's get to know each other more. This is who I am, where I'm from, how many kids, husband. It's been actually really cool inside all the groups.
Nice.
That pumps me up. So we started selling BMS Con now. And inside of that, I am personally going through and reading every single application because we're to the point where not everybody's a fit for BMS. And that sounds maybe mean or harsh, but it's just kind of the cold, hard truth of it. It does not work for everyone. So I'm going through, and if there's any red flags or they, don't fill it out or give me one-word answers, I'm like, if you cannot actually answer 8 questions with even one sentence, I can guarantee you're not going to cut it.
If you want an extension demo, go somewhere else or go to a knockoff brand. But if you want to actually succeed in your business and get real results, then fill out the fucking questionnaire.
My favorite is when it says, why, BMS con tickets are very limited. Why do you deserve a seat here? Yes. I'm like, that literally doesn't even actually.
Same.
Ditto.
You know what? I have to admit, I'm kind of that asshole where I don't read. So I can't even. I'd be the one that's like, you dicks, you sold out the class. And I'd be like, okay, I'll go to convention.
Just kidding, my bad. So this woman, her answers, literally the longest sentence was, why should you come to BMS Con? She goes, I'm a top-notch artist or something like that. It was there was like 5 words. That was the longest one she gave. So I'm like, no, you're not coming. You can't do the work. So I have Morgan, my assistant, going through, like, emailing people saying, hey, you didn't, like, I'm sorry.
Well,
but
and when people aren't ready, like, if I were to apply for something and they were like, no, you're not ready, I'd have been like, oh, shit, they actually do read these. Because you know how you wonder, like, that's the thing. Like, I went to this Tony Robbins event, and it was like, I kid you not, like a 9-page questionnaire before you had to get there. And Garrett actually knew Tony's son. And anyway, we get to the event, and then we find out Tony actually does read all those. And I'm like, well, aren't I the asshole? Because I was the one that's like, same, no, changing the world.
Do you know I decline all those applications?
I know. Yeah. So, but I think I would pursue if I was like, oh my God, they actually do read it. I would be like more like of a follower and more into it. And then I would be, the next time I applied, I'd go for the right reasons and fill it out. So there's people that might not be ready now, but I'm sure they're ready later.
Yeah. And that's literally what I tell them. I'm like, hey, unfortunately right now, BMS doesn't seem like a good fit for you. I encourage you to listen to the podcast, find out what we're more about, and definitely reapply next year. The email I got, she goes, I've never heard of a hair class doing this. Is this a racially motivated response? I'm like, you bitch.
But it's not just a hair class.
Well, for me, number one, I don't know what you look like.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about you. And so I responded, and I'm like, number one, BMS, not normal. Our education, not normal. What we require is this. It's hustle, grind, and commitment like never before. As to address your, is this a racially motivated response? Number one, I was not born in America. 2, English is not my first language. 3, I am actually a minority. So no.
Guarantee it's some white girl.
It's Becky with the blonde hair.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and so I was like, we don't tolerate these kind of responses inside of BMS. So your response now tells me you're not a good fit here.
Yeah.
So the end, thank you. And she's like, she came back super nasty at me. I never responded. I'm like, I don't have time for this. There's 100 other people in my inbox right now who need all my attention.
Yeah.
Because I do read all of the applications,
That's
guys.
what's funny is, like, I think people see we don't see things. And so they think that they can be an asshole and it can go unspoken. And there's times where I'm like, should I respond to the asshole? I just got an email based off one of our emails that went out. And she was like, your emails make me sick. What does this have to do with learning extensions? And I wanted to send her an email back and be like, Sarah, fuck off. And then I was like, or I wanted to, like, that was my first, obviously, response. But then I wanted to be like, oh, that's so sad. She doesn't really know what we're about. And so then I was going to send her this long typed email that was like, oh my God, like, I didn't mean to offend you, but we're up to good shit. And da-da-da. And then I was like, nope. So my response was, no worries. I'll take you off the list. Let us know when you're ready. I was like, where do you decide who gets your time,
Yeah, and that's why for me, I CC'd Colin and Jeff, our COO and CFO. I'm like, just so you guys know, I got called racist today, but here was my response.
Yeah.
And Colin, he was like, that was a solid response. I'm like, I know. Turns out I can be delicate when I kind of need to, but once again, I also was literally not born here, so wait, what?
Yeah, I just hate when people pull stupid, like, comments like that, and you're like, don't be a victim. So you read this wrong, and
homie, that's a you problem, not a me problem. Your application was... Most of the answers were literally one word. Like, I'm no.
Nope.
It's been fun. So anyway, so today we are going to talk about, I was thinking really kind of the power of manifestation in general. Because a lot of people, I know everybody's read the book The Secret, and they sit there and they're like, this is what I want.
I hated The Secret.
I
thought it was the biggest hypey bullshit I've ever read in my entire life, and I was like, what the fuck? Who actually? We're just creating a bunch of morons in the world. I think maybe, I don't know. I think that I'm all into, like, positive vibes, but that book triggered me. I'm not gonna lie.
I think I like the concept of it. Like, yes, I think if you wake up every day and you're like, it's a fucking garbage day, well, then you're going to have a garbage day. That's why for me, Wednesdays, so help me God, since I moved here, I have not had a bad Wednesday. Wednesdays, because I wake up and I'm like, it's Wednesday.
Right.
It's filming day. Ever since this year, I'm like, it's podcast day. Like, and Val, she's always like, happy Wednesday. I'm like, I know. She's like, oh my God. Even today, we were texting back and forth this morning. She's like, happy Wednesday. I know it's your best day. I'm like, yes, it is.
You're like,
yep. But yeah, so I want to talk about, kind of clearing space, because I know there's a lot of shit happens, especially inside of BMS. Like, I see it every day. There's so many, it's a lot of hard shit we deal with. It's not always just like hair and extensions and this color didn't match or whatever. It is some, like, deep
Life.
shit. Yeah. So talk kind of about, like, clearing space inside of, like, meditating and getting the negativity away and releasing, like, anger, like, judgment, grudges, and just kind of, like, do you do something similar to that?
I was, like, telling Garrett, I said, and we've talked about this on so many of our shows, and even on our last Date Your Wife podcast, I really talked about this so much, because it's like we'll hit on a topic, and I feel like it's something that, like, needs to be shared and like real clear.
Yeah.
And my point is you have to learn how to Val always describes it the best, how she has like her little boxes or compartmental. How do you say that?
Compartmentalize.
I'm like, why can't I say that? Compartmentalize.
You're like, it's a compartment.
I'm like, compartmentalize.
Like the people who can't say
the
cinnamon.
Boxes? I know. Anyway, God. But I feel like so many times, if you cross like business into being a mom or mom being into work, and so you have to learn how to like wear your hat for each like area. So like for me, like I'll wake up sometimes and I am in a shitty mood. Like I'm not gonna lie, and I'm like, it's not that I like sit and fester on like being in a bad mood or like that victim mentality. To me, what I do is I just like I'm like I focus on like, okay, well, get busy for the day. So I just kind of start my day. I work out, I get my kids off, I go into work. And then it's interesting because I feel like when you go to work, because you were in the beauty industry, you want it to be, it's hair day. It's like the best day. Like every girl loves hair day. Like I love hair day. Like it's just fun. And so it would be unfair for me to carry that shitty mood to the salon. And so even though I'm kind of like flip a switch and it's like, it's not that I'm faking it, but I like, nope, shut these emotions off or leave these emotions here.
Yeah.
And so I'll go to work and it's weird because I'll start doing work and I'll start conversations with the client and I'm like, and all of a sudden, like an hour into work, I'm like, God, I love my job. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is so fun. I love talking to people. I love the art. I love like everything about it. And all of a sudden it's like, I think that's why I'm so protective even of like the salon energies, because that's like my happy space where I can like turn it on and I'm like, oh, let's do this. And so for me, it's like, I just have to be able to like be happy here and then like leave that energy here and not like take work home, or you know what I mean, and kind of be able to bounce back and forth between the many roles that a lot of people have. And it's tricky even with Garrett and I because we work together. Yeah. So with us, would like talking about work, a lot of times we'll be like talking about work, but if I feel it going a negative way, and this sounds so funny, I'll be like, so Ruby did the cutest thing last night. and I'll flip it because I don't want it to carry into our date night or whatnot. So
right. And especially, I mean, when you wear so many hats and you do so much, and even our artists who, like I said, their moms, they're everything, something can trigger you. And I feel like if you take that from just home to business, or if you try to solve something in the middle of you being like pissed off and upset like that, you're not actually going to get a great solution. Right. It's just you're doing everything out of anger. Just like I think this always shocks people. I never speak out of anger. When I'm so mad, if I'm like that angry, I'm just like, okay, I need to take a step back. But when I'm that mad, I quiet down. I'm like, I don't curse, I don't scream, I don't yell, because I'm like, you can't take that back. You can never do that. So I'm like, I need to take a step back. And that's where I see like clearing space, almost like taking a step back to be like, okay, reel it in.
To like emotionally like get into a logical space almost.
Yeah, just let go. And I know when I was younger, I was like a super grudge holder. And I'm not saying it's a good thing about me, but I learned to like let that go as I got older, to be like, it literally, this doesn't serve me. It's not doing me any good. Like, why am I still like harboring all these feelings? Right. So now I feel like I can like let things go pretty quickly. And I think it's just like reframing and moving on and being like, okay, great, this happened and now we're going forward. But I've learned like trying to solve things. So many of the artists I talk to, when they're like, but she said this, and I'm so fucking mad, I'm just gonna email and be like, fuck you. I'm like, no, hold on.
Make it harder for yourself.
I'm like, reel it back in like for just 1 minute. And so even with that, so I feel like meditating, because that's part of like the core four, like all of our artists do it, the warriors do it, and I've actually grown to love it in these past 6 months, which is shocking to me, because when I started I was like 5 minutes.
Because it takes you back to a neutral space. Yeah, whether you're fatigued, whether you're tired, whether you're angry, whether you're mad, meditating is not because you're tired. I believe it's something that is enables you to take you back to a neutral space. And I was just going to touch base on this really quick before I lose this thought, but I talked about this on our Date Your Wife podcast that Garrett and I did, but everybody has. So we went to a couples therapy one time, and they were talking about how like the therapist was talking about how everybody flips their lid. And she's like, Garrett flips his lid quicker. And so what happens with people is like everybody has their levels before their lid's flipped, and they're like not in an emotional state anymore. And so like for me, like Garrett would have like 1, 2, 3, bam, and I would have like 16 levels to my. And so when I would feel myself, and if you have two people that flip their lid, you can't emotionally have a very productive conversation. Even same goes with artists that have been in our network that maybe collided and whatnot, because it's when you worry, you're getting to those levels, and all of a sudden your lid flips and you're not in a logical space anymore. You're very much in an emotional state, and like you said, you can't unsay those things. And so I'm similar to you, where like I take a step back, because if both Garrett and I flip our lid, like you can't unsay that shit. But if I'm able to step back, collect myself, and then he comes back down into his box, then we can come back and have a logical conversation and a somewhat productive conversation and kind of go from there. So it's, I think we deal with like so much shit with like life and it's just crazy.
And then I feel it only sometimes get just gnarlier, especially the more people that come on, the more that, I mean, recently I feel like the past few weeks artists have been telling me more things where I'm sitting there some days like, damn, like this is, and I always have to take a minute like before I leave headquarters to be like, okay, release this energy. It's not yours. Don't take it home with you. Because my house, I always feel like, is just when you walk in, it's just like so cool, calm, collected, and you can just feel it. So I always have to like be so aware of that to like either meditate it out or just take a deep breath and be like, cool, this is not mine. It's not going to go home. It's just going to go out.
It's going to stay in the box.
Yep. You go back in that box, but I don't want that box back tomorrow. That's a really stressful box for me. I would like that one to just stay that way, please.
Right.
So I feel like once you're able to like, whatever triggers you or makes you mad or upset or stress you out, whatever it is, once you're able to clear space, I feel like then you have to get clear on what it is you actually want. Because definitely when you're angry, when you're mad, when you're upset, you're like, I don't, fuck this.
You can't even talk to yourself in that state.
Nope. And that's just, it's a shit show. Or even if you are in a good place, like you still, I feel like everything can be kind of, not like cockeyed or topsy-turvy, but you just don't really know where you're going.
Right.
So, and I know there have been tons of times we sat down with DKW. DKW just recently did it on getting clear on like, this is where we're going. This is what we want. We do it with BMS where like everybody does it. So what do you do to get like clear to figure out like, what is it like deep down that you actually want?
Like out of business or life or what?
We can do both, either or. Yeah.
You know, Ani, that is a great question.
She's like, shit.
Right on the spot. You know what? I think I've always felt like where I know things could go, like in my heart with like business and everything. And it's not like I have a clear path, but I just know on those days that I'm feeling shitty or feeling like you can't do this, then I've gotten better at being like telling that person fuck off. And I know that that's just like part of life, and there's going to be like ups and downs, and for me I have to look like, why am I feeling this way, and what do I need to shift? Do I need more balance at home, more balance at work, more balance here, you know what I mean? And I try to kind of figure out what's holding me back and really try to step outside of my comfort zone to reach my goals. And for me, it's not like I create some kind of a vision board or...
Yeah, I don't do those.
Yeah, I don't do those.
They stress me out. They look messy.
You know what? They do. I agree. I'm like, what the fuck, a collage?
I'm like,
I'm not five. Yeah, oh my God. We're a little bit like OCD clean at that level. So yeah, I can't have a vision board. It looks like a 5-year-old collage. and also I've noticed my vision will change. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God, yes.
So if I'm stuck on this board of like, I must do Jennifer Aniston's hair, it's on my vision board, or Selena Gomez, sorry, Stacey.
Sorry, Stacey.
then it can hold me back too. Because what if my potential is not to do celebrity hair, and what if it's to go over here, and if celebrity hair comes, great. But if I'm so focused on I have to do Jennifer Aniston's hair, what am I missing? What opportunities am I missing out on? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, so many times when artists come into BMS and we talk like, okay, where are you at? Where are you going? They're like, I want this. And all of a sudden, even if it's like a couple weeks down, they're getting close to hitting it, then they almost go into panic. They're like, then what am I supposed to do? I'm like, do something new.
It creates chaos and confusion when people have a set plan in their life. They're like, I'm having 4 kids. I'm going to do Jennifer Aniston's hair. I'm going to marry Ken, and we're going to have a mansion in Hollywood Hills.
I feel like this is a Barbie TV show.
Yes. And then when shit goes sideways, they're like plummet. And you're like, shift your plan. What if that? Why is this? Why are you valuing doing Jennifer Aniston's hair? Like, why don't you value something else and change your story a little bit so that I don't know. So I think people get stuck in their stories of, I can't do it because this obstacle got in the way and this was my goal. So fuck it, I'm out. You know?
Yeah. Or another thing I see is no matter if they're like, it's Jennifer Aniston and Selena Gomez, that's my goal. No matter how much success they find other than that,
they are so set on that.
Yes.
And you're like, you're already doing really fucking awesome.
Like, you're killing it. And they're like, no, because I always said I'd do this and this. I'm like, but look at what you're actually doing. Like, it's so great.
And you know what's interesting too is there's artists that will be like, I'm gonna be a platform artist, and you're like, great, good for you. But then they get on stage and they're up there and they're teaching and they're training, but is it fulfilling for them? Are they making more money? Are they sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. Sometimes it could be very much like just showy, and they're doing this platform artist stuff for free for other people, and then they're like getting drained, sucked dry at home or whatever it is. then that's not good too. They're like, oh, I always said I was going to be a platform artist though. That was my goal. And you're like, but you're not fucking paying your bills and your kids are at home.
You're not remotely happy.
And you're not happy. So what if that is your goal and you're not happy, then why are you, where does this lead, you know? So it's like, just because you have that on your vision board or your end goal doesn't mean that's always the exact path that, in my experience, that you should be taking.
And even like you just said, when people, they're like, I want to be a platform artist, and they do it and then they hate it, they feel, they're like, my life is garbage. And this happened with Val. Sorry, Val, you're not here, but you're still coming into the podcast. Her goal was always to be like the salon owner, the salon manager, like have a team, her own salon. She was salon manager for a month, and holy fucking shit. At the end, she's like, I hate this. It's literally the worst. And her and I had a really big talk about it when she was given the choice of salon manager or BMS. And she's like, but Ani, she's like, you know, when I started doing BMS, she's like, I was like, I'm not doing a fucking live video, like live training. No, she's like, and now it's like, I'll do podcasts, live training.
And it's like the new norm.
Yeah. She's like, and she told me, she goes, what if I just haven't given it enough time? What if like I'm giving up too early? I'm like, I hear you, but does this make you happy? She's like, no. And I was like, listen to your gut. I'm like, her instinct is so spot on. I'm like, you've never doubted yourself before. Don't do it now. It's okay for your vision to change. You're not a failure. You just grew and you changed. And inside of you growing, you found something you love more, which is BMS and training, because it's the best.
It's interesting because like I remember I went to the Paul Mitchell School, and they had this huge hair show every year in Vegas, and I would go to this hair show, and I remember I was like in awe at these people on stage. I mean, they did a haircut with like a broken bottle at one point. It was like when Robert Cromie was like the shit, and like I was like, whoa, and it was cool because I was like, I was like,
all I'm imagining was in the salon taking a beer bottle going, all
right. Exactly, that's what they were. It was so showy and ridiculous, but I loved it. And anyways, I think it was Robert Cromie's, because he's a big
insane.
He is insane, but I'm like, I really like him.
In a great way,
in such a good way. Like, it's great. But anyway, so I remember thinking like, I'm going to be on stage, and there's going to be a crowd like this. And I thought I was going to be on somebody else's stage, you know? And as we build BMS and I'm on stage, like, it's interesting because even I catch myself being like, well, this is my stage and I was going to be on that stage. And then I'm like, wait, my stage is really fucking cool.
Have you seen our stage?
But not only that, it's like, it's my stage. Like, these students are our tribe. Yes. I'm not up there to like show off. I'm just like so excited to like share my passion. And it doesn't, to me, it's weird because I have these surreal moments where I'm like, oh, I'm on stage. Oh, cool. You know what I mean?
Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah, sweet. But I knew I'd be on a stage. I just didn't realize it would be my stage. And if I had kept to this plan of like, I'm just going to be on the big Paul Mitchell stage, and maybe that comes one day. Maybe there's more stages. However, if that was my end goal, I don't know if I would have ever even started the whole like NBR BMS thing, my own thing. I would have aspired to work for somebody else. You know what I mean?
I've had those same things because I've always said I wanted to train and I wanted to educate, but I just never found something that I was like, this is it. Obviously until BMS. And even for BMS Con 2, was standing up there, for me, it was a moment of, oh my God, you have been the person sitting in the crowd watching the person on stage. Now you're the person on the stage.
Right.
Like, all these people have come here to see us three. Right. Like, they oh my God, like, they've been talking to you for 3 weeks. They've been inside the pre-training. We get how many emails and DMs and everything about like everything. Like, oh my God, it blew my mind standing there like, holy shit.
Here we are. But it feels like norm too.
For me, I'm just like, this is awesome.
Yeah, you're like, it's fun. Yeah, totally.
Yes. And so even like getting clear on what we want, I think a lot of times we almost feel guilty for what we want. Like, people, and this, I don't know if this makes it sound shitty or not, but I never had like the opportunity to just go into a store and buy whatever I wanted. Yeah. And I told myself, I'm like, there will come a day where I will be able to walk into Nordstrom, say, I want that, and not even look at a price tag. Like, it might sound like not a self-centered goal, but like a shitty, like whatever.
Like, you just don't care. Like, you're not stressed that you have to check like, the price tags and be like, ooh.
And I wanted to do that once, and then I did it not long ago, and I walked out, didn't even think about it, but I'm leaving this whatever store I was at, and I was like, son of a bitch. I just did it.
And you're like, $2,000. What was that? I'm just kidding.
I'm like, who am I? I blacked out. Can I return this, please?
What's Balenciaga?
They're like, no, ma'am. You cannot do refunds on this. But I think that's so cool. So talk about like the goals that we have, because so many artists come in and they're like, I want to make more money. Yeah. But they whisper, they're like, I want to make more money. And they're like, I'm like, don't apologize for what you want. Yes. Like, you need to go for it.
I think in our industry, we're very much lovers of the art.
Oh, yeah.
And I think women in general, I mean, I guess I shouldn't speak generally, but I'm a woman, so I'm going to. But I think that we have a hard time being like demanding pricing. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, this is what I'm worth. This is what I'm going to charge. This is what it is. And I think guys break it down different, and they're just like, here's what it is.
Here's what the price, man.
Here's the price, dude. It is what it is. But I think women have a little bit harder time, and I don't know if it's just because we love our work so much, or there's so much. I think that so many people, like artists, I see this all the time, like it's fun to be a hairstylist like before you hit to the burnout phase. And so even then it's still kind of fun, and so it's hard to charge a lot because it's fun. You know what I mean? And so I think a lot of people don't like charge what they're worth. I can't even remember what the question was.
No, it's fine. You're good. So you got it. Don't you worry. So, and even like what I tell the artists is because they're like, I feel like when you make a goal and get clear on what you want, it doesn't have to be like super specific, but I feel like sometimes in the beginning it almost has to be.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, I just want to have like the perfect client. I'm like, well, what's the perfect client? They're like, I'm like, no, I don't know. I am very different. I love my clients to be super chill, laid back, potty mouth. Like one of my clients, when she left the other day, Mariel, she's amazing. She was like, see you later, you little asshole. I'm like, thanks, man. See you later.
Thanks, man.
And she's I love
Thanks,
her.
dickhead.
She texted me once and called me. I think it was also an asshole, but I was like, it's cool, it's fine. But that's her personality, and clearly that vibes super well with mine.
She's would be severely offended if one of my clients left and said, see you later, little asshole. I'd be like, well, fuck off, Sarah. Just
fuck
kidding.
you, bitch. I'm canceling your appointment.
Just kidding.
Nope. I was almost crying from laughter. And Lo is like a big fan of her. Like she does like TV and stuff like that. So he's like, it's her. I'm like, okay, reel it in. And he came up to her. He's like, hello, Miss Mariel. Which car is yours? And I'm like, what? I'm like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, you're always so like, hello, I'm Lorenzo.
Don't act shy now, Lo.
It was awesome. So when he left, I was like, he's a big fan of yours. I think he's stressed out. So when she left, she was like, thanks for being a fan. He was like, like, how did she know? I'm like, oh, crazy. But I did tell her. But I tell all my artists, I'm like, you want like, or they say like, I just want to have more money. Well, what does that look like to you? I tell them, I'm like, you need to get clear. So when you want the perfect client, well, what does she look like to you? Mm-hmm. How old is she? What does she do? What are her hobbies? Like, what does she look like? And even inside of BMS, we've done something really similar. Garrett, Val, and I, we'd sat down and we're like, okay, let's just have a real moment. Top 3 students, bottom 3 students. And we were like, ooh. And we were like,
and then did you like compare what their clientele and everything looked like? Or
we compared them as people because we were thinking at that point, who is going to be coming into BMS? Because we are now to the point where we simply don't accept everybody. If it's someone who's writing a 1-word answer or someone who's written me literally paragraphs per question, I can tell who wants it more. Sorry, you're not on the same plane.
I kind of like someone in the middle. Paragraphs scare me a little bit. I'm like,
you're too much. This is an Ani one.
This is a red flag.
And for me, I'm like, look how dedicated you are that you wrote so much down. I love it. But we sat down and we're like, okay, the top 3 artists that we have inside BMS, what are their traits? Like, not what do they look like, but what do they do with business, with their clientele? Like, what are their 3 biggest traits? And we started writing it down, and we're like, the 3 bottom ones, what are their traits? And we started writing it down more, and we saw, we're like, holy shit, they're almost identical. Like, there's so many similarities.
And the bottom and the top were so many similarities?
The top 3 were so similar,
and the bottom 3,
yeah.
Okay.
And so then we started looking through, and now reading these applications, I can look through and be like,
You know what to look for.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important for our
don't
artists.
you think the bottom 3, I get in this place where I'm like, well, they need us the most, but then I'm like, but are they going to be harder to babysit? And are they ready?
No. And here's an interesting one. I had a woman who applied for BMS. I approved her application, and I sent her an email like, hey, congrats, da-da-da. She's like, I bought my ticket. I just have some more questions. I'm like, shit, my email literally said, don't ask me 500 questions, but all right, let's do this. I'm like, damn it. And so she was like, do I have to buy this kit, or if I have the tools? I'm like, you don't have to buy the kit as long as you have the correct tools. It's fine. She's like, okay, do I need a mannequin and a tripod? I'm like, the email said yes. I'm like, yes, you do. She's like, are you going to provide me hair? I'm like, no, not for pre-training, but at convention, yes. And she's like, well, this seems like a steep price to pay for not getting a lot.
It's $1,000 for 3 days.
So, and 3 weeks, 21 days of pre-training.
Nobody offers that.
So you know what I did? I emailed her back and I was like,
not a fit.
I hear you. Okay. And it turns out that BMS is not a fit for you. Yeah. I will be refunding your money, and I highly encourage you to listen to our podcast, find out what we're actually about, and reapply for next year.
You know what's interesting, too?
I got 8 more emails in a row after her saying, please, God, no, please, no, please, no, please,
From
no.
her?
Yeah. It was literally like one after the other. She's like, please, no, please, no, please don't refund, which you know how quick I do things. I'm like, I said I was going to refund. I'm in it now. I'm like, I already refunded you, man. And she came back to me and was like, let me explain my situation. She's like, first, I apologize. She goes, that was rude. And I was like, I hear you. Yes, it was. And she's like, but I am, my husband and I, like, we don't make a lot of money and we have a kid and I've been the producer and I'm just trying. She's like, I know that $1,000 is not a lot to you guys, but it's a lot to me. And I'm like, hold on, homie.
It's
like,
a lot to everybody.
I came into this making $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
So $1,000 there. No, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I just wanted to like know and this and that. And I did go back and listen and I'm like all in, please. She's like, I'm asking, please, can I come? Well, I'm not a heartless monster. I'm like, dude, for sure. I'm like, re-click the link. You do have to repay. Like, I already refunded you. And she was like, thank you so much. So it's
sometimes you have to do that. And how they respond is like, okay, then you are a fit. Because I think it is, for a lot of people, it's like a balance of like not having to save them, but seeing if they're ready too. I don't know if Garrett ever shared this story with you, but like when we literally had no money, we weren't paying our mortgage. We were like living on credit cards and whatnot. We had like no money in our bank. And he says to me, like, I'm going to go to this Brendan Bouchard event or something in San Diego. And I'm like, okay, how are you going to get down there? And he's like, I'll just drive. And I'm like, because I knew, I'm like, fuck, we can't even afford a flight right now. And he drives down and he didn't tell me this till later. And I literally like busted into tears, but he's like, he didn't even have money to stay in like a Best Western or the hotel that the event was at. He slept in his car.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God. But he said that event, he wasn't looking to be saved, but he said that event really helped shift his mindset and like change a lot. But so there's like situations like where he wasn't asking like, can I get a better price or can I get this? And like people will do what they have to do if they feel like that's where they need to be. You know what I mean? So anyway.
And I tell everyone, I'm like, when the first BMS came around, it was $2,000 for the intensive and it was the first class. Do you think I had $2,000? Because the answer is no, I did not. I got a credit card. I put on my credit card and I was like, I'm going to need to pay you off though because I don't like that. So I'm like, I didn't have this money at all, period. I just made it work because I knew I'm going to be there. Like, I have to go to this class. So even then, like, and I tell people, I'm like, look at your life. Like, what is it you want inside of your life? Because people, they're like, I just want like freedom and space. Well, what does that look like?
Right.
What does that actually mean to you? And I think that's the problem I see with people. They want like the profit itself. And this is the profit for them. It's
but
the
really
time.
The profit leads to, they really, what they want is they want freedom and space. But you have to have profit to do that. And people get like soaked into the game of just profit. And then they're like, they have no extra time. And then they're like, oh, but then they're being fed by significance and the work and all that. And it's a balancing game and it's tricky.
Absolutely. And then I really feel like, so you clear off your space, you meditate, you get out of like your head where you're just a fucking shit show and chaos. And from there you get clear. You're like, okay, this is where I am. This is where I'm going. Like, this is what I want to do. And you then understand. But from there, I feel like you really have to figure out like, what is the possibility of this? What are your fears, your weaknesses? And you kind of, because everybody has those. And I know it's so crazy because all of our students, I don't know if you've ever noticed, they're like, your guys' lives are so perfect. I'm like, I know you're not looking at me because half my life is a shit show most of the time. I'm like, who?
Most of our lives are a fun shit show, okay?
It's a really cool shit show, but it's still the word shit show. And that's why when they say it, they're like, but you guys just have everything in place and it's so easy. I'm like, what the
No.
Who?
There's always new trials at every level. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Trust me. Yes, I do. It's an interesting life we lead here. But even inside of that, like I always say, because I've known that like a weakness of mine is vulnerability. I'm not great at that. You're not great at that either. Like neither's Val. Like none of us are.
I've gotten better. I would say out of the three robots, I'm finally given. I'm just gonna say it. We are, but we very much are like, put on your workout. Let's do this. But I think over the last few years, I've become like the crier because when confrontation comes to me, I was always quick to like tuck it under the rug. But then for me, it always like keeps popping back up, and I'm like, I can't keep doing this. And Garrett's the type that like just confronts stuff. So I've tried to be better at that. But then I realized the reason I don't confront things is because I always cry. Like, turns out I'm just like super an emotional basket case, and I think I care too.
You opened up that box.
I did. I opened that box. So now, like, but I also found in training that it's become like the vulnerability that I always thought was a weakness has become a little bit of a strength for me. And I'll get on stage and I'll start sharing my story, or I'll start like talking, and I cry, and I'm like, It is what it is, guys, you know, but it gets everybody in there because most of our events are all women, and I feel like it does something to the energy in the room where everybody like takes off their shields and they're just like butter. And from that point on, I'm like, wow, that's a strength. That's my superpower. So I just kind of like, even though it's hard for me, I try to like just be like, that's fine, Danielle. Like, just be you. And if it requires you to open up and be more vulnerable, like, that's not a weakness. That can very much be a strength.
And that is the same. And I will say, for me, the time that I saw the biggest change in you, because I feel like, when you see someone so much, you see it little by little. Yeah. But when I think back to BMS Con 1 and 2, when you were standing on stage, I look at Val and I was like, fucking Danielle, she crushed it. I was like, holy fucking shit. I'm like, who is that woman on stage right now? When you were sharing your story, and I'm looking at her and I'm looking at Garrett and I'm just like nodding at him, and we're just sitting there like, not like proud, but like so proud, like, oh my gosh, because
I did prepare a little bit. I'm like,
it doesn't matter, preparation or not, vulnerability, not
you can't
easy.
Prepare vulnerability. Like,
nope.
It comes or it doesn't,
Absolutely. And so I know myself, like, one of my biggest weaknesses is being vulnerable. Even Garrett and I, we had a talk the other day, and we were sitting down yesterday, and he's just looking at me and he's like, Ani, because it was not a great conversation, obviously. And you're like, and he looked at me, he's like, you have such a good poker face. He goes, one of the best I have ever seen.
And he's married to me. Just kidding.
And I know, because my face goes fucking like stone cold, stoic.
You're not getting in.
It's that's not that that's my mentality, but I know deep down, like, that's how I'm feeling. I'm like,
I think it's a protective mechanism.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I had a walk and talk with Sam yesterday, and he was like, Ani. I was like, oh fuck, here it's gonna go. But even like Garrett was like, you have one of the best poker faces I have ever seen. He goes, but underneath, I know it's a hurricane, and I'm like, And even when I start crying at that point, my face doesn't change. I'm not like, I literally say, I'm a fucking statue weeping.
You're crying inside. The tears are just like.
It's called sweat at this point. But it's so true. But even looking at that, I'm like, I acknowledge that me not willing to be, and I feel like I've gotten so much better recently, like through all the stuff we've been going through, that I'm like, okay, I can be way more vulnerable now. But I had to almost think like, okay, it is a weakness. It's not great that I'm never willing to share, but at the same time, why is that also a strength for me? I'm like, okay, when it comes to my students telling me some of the gnarliest shit I have ever heard in my life.
You almost have to keep a little bit of that poker face.
Oh, it's poker face, and don't let it, like, I can't let it affect me, because when they're telling me, and I've told Garrett some of the stuff, and he's like, fuck,
if you're
Ani.
if you're doing like even a hot seat and both of you are crying, then nothing gets accomplished.
It's an emotional shit show.
Both your lids flipped in another direction, and the water spouts are just overflowing. It's instead of I'm so visual, but I figure like the mad, when your lid pops, it's like an explosion. When it's like an emotional, just let's envision buckets are pouring. So either way, you can flip your lid emotionally.
What is that that fountain in Vegas where it's like, and like everybody goes.
The Bellagio fountain?
Oh yeah. When you flip your lid, it's like,
yeah.
That's what it
totally.
is. But really, and I know like I've had to work on that, and now my vulnerability, because I always viewed it weirdly. For me, I viewed it as weakness. For other people, I viewed it as strength. I'm like, God, look how strong she is to be able to do that. But when I do it, I'm like, you're being like a little a-hole.
I think there's a time. Like, I think when you're coaching individual students, and I watch it, again, like when we're doing these hot seats, it's like me and Garrett will do it with like one person on the other line. And literally, they get in these hot seats because they're in a painful place. And we're doing like a Skype call, and we're sitting there, and they fill out an application before they get on the hot seat. And literally, we'll read the application, and they're already in tears. And we can't, it would be not effective if like we're in tears and we're like, it's okay. Like, nothing would get done.
No.
So it's like there's a time and a place to show that vulnerability. For me, it's like I realized it was a strength, but it's like, sure, the opening speech on stage, telling my story and allowing myself to get vulnerable, great, melts the audience. Vulnerability when you're trying to get shit done and somebody's already crying, not effective. And so it's like learning to use your superpowers as needed.
Well, and that's why even Morgan, when I hired her on, I was like, okay, because we've talked before, like, I'm a very direct person, because there's so much shit, like, literally going back and forth.
You don't have time to be like, so Morgan.
Hello, Miss Morgan. How are you? Great. I'm just like, literally, there'll be some days. There was one day I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I'm like, we have stuff to do tomorrow. I think I sent her, oh my God, I pulled a Garrett. Morgan, if you're listening, I'm so sorry, Garrett. You know you do this too. But all of a sudden, I'm like sending her message after message after message. And I'm like, you're a fucking asshole. When Garrett used to do that to you, you'd be like, stress mode. And I was like, oh, fuck. So I even had to tell her the next day, I'm like, hey, if I text you outside of these hours, you can just ignore me till the next day, unless it's like a code red. Then I need you to answer. But even then, I'm like, okay, we need to do this. Did you do this? Did you do that? And I'm like, because my mind is like going so quickly.
Right.
And I told her, I'm like, don't be offended. I'm not trying to be
but
a
you
dick.
have to get it all out. Yeah.
We got a lot to do.
I do that with Ken's, but like a lot of times I will voice text it and I'm like, hey, how are you? Hope you're doing great. No, you're at the salon. Don't get stressed out, but I'm going to leave you 17 text messages. Go ahead and save them, put them in your notes, and touch base with you when you're done. Like that's how I like approach things when I'm going to do the vomit text to somebody of like, here's your fucking checklist. I'll touch base with you in a few hours. But
Is that what I need to do with you when I'm like, hey, Danielle?
Yeah, see, and I think that's why, like, I was telling you, like, sometimes I get triggered by you, but I think it's because you approach things like, we're fucking doing this. I'm like, what?
You're like,
whereas, like, when I approach things, because I'm the same way, like, I'm going to spout out a list, but I literally frame it like, hey, how's it going? Super pumped, but here's what we're going to do. And it's like, oh.
Now I know to do that because it's funny.
I need your cheerleader, Ani, okay? I need you to approach it with, like, just send me a voice text first.
Done.
With a very cheerful Ani, and then spout out your text, and then I will confirm.
And you know what? It's so funny because the way I message you is literally the same way I message Garrett. Like, it's no different.
But that's how Garrett messages people, and he's a dude.
I know, and I feel like I might be a boy on the inside, guys, because I'll message him. Even yesterday, I sent him audio, and I'm like, hey, okay, we need to discuss boot camp, BMS Con 3, Mastermind Convention, the AC, and we discuss podcast tomorrow. And he's like, he goes, talk now. I'm like, yes. And we call each other. We're like, okay, we literally start going down the list. We're like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, he's like, okay, good. I'm like, good, bye. And I hung up. Like,
do you know what's funny with Garrett is I can't play that role with him because I'm his wife. So sometimes when I would do that list, he would spout back to me like I was a dude, and I was like, oh, fuck you, buddy, and I'd get really irritated. So now I reframe it, even though like I realize as I'm working with my husband, I have to do this. So I'll be like, so I reframe things like as a question. Would you like to do this? But really, I'm like, we're fucking doing this. And then I put the little 2 emoji guys holding hands and a heart, and sometimes a flame. And I just realized, like, the packaging, he's like, yeah, love it, babe, great. Fist bump instead of, like, brah, like, instead of, like, reacting like a dude and then me getting triggered and then, like, we get in some text battle. Like,
oh, my God, that's hysterical.
Just send me an emoji or a flame, Ani, and I'll just know.
That's why when I texted you yesterday, I was like, it's at 11, Danielle, and I put, like, the laughing, crying. When we were talking, I was like, was that one offensive? Because I thought it was really funny.
Sometimes the laughing, crying, when somebody says a comment, I kind of think they're a dick, too, though. No, I didn't think that yesterday. I was just working. Sometimes if you get a flex from me or a laughing, crying, I'm kind of being passive-aggressive.
Oh, shit, now I know.
Yeah, so if you get a flex, I'm it's my shield.
Are we trying to take power?
It's my shield. It's my shield. If you get a flex from me or a laughing, crying on an irrelevant question, I'm being a dick. So, you know. But anyway,
I love hearing that, though.
Yes.
And for me, I feel like if I put emojis, see, I think it's hard for me because if I'm putting emojis, it's because I'm like, I'm honestly laughing.
Yeah.
Or like trying to be like, hey, it might sound like I'm being a dick, but I'm not.
No, I get it. I'm like you. I'm super direct. And then I realized, like, my mom would text me all the time, too. This has nothing to do with the show. But she would text me all the time, too. And she'd be like, it was very matter of fact. And I was like, Mom, you're such...
You mad at me?
What? Fuck off! I was just so mad. And so I just noticed when people send me an emoji, it just changes. So I started sending emojis to people because I realized that
emojis?
Yeah, so everyone gets an emoji.
Think...
Unless you get this.
I'm like, oh, Danielle's flexing on me. Oh, shit. It's not great, guys. Retreat. Send a happy one. Quick, send a heart. What's your favorite color? Do you like the black? Because that's my favorite.
Oh, I do like the black, yes.
I know. When I get a colored heart, I'm like, that's nice, but where's the black one? Everybody knows.
My black one is like a firm, like, it's like, I love you and I mean business. That's what my black heart means.
I feel like if you get a red heart from me, because that's the only other one I'll ever use, it's because I'm like, I really, like, truly, deeply feel you.
If you get a yellow heart, I don't really like you.
Everyone on staff right now is going back to look at their text from you being like, oh, God, it was
You don't
yellow.
Want a flex or a yellow heart from me. That's me
shit.
being like, you're not that important to me.
Holy shit. Danielle's also, she's sitting there. She's like, fuck, I think I sent one to Ani yesterday. Oh, God. So we're unfortunately coming to the end. I'm like, I want this to go on forever.
Sorry, that was a bad way to end the show. Did we hit all our topics?
For the most part, yeah. So just really, let's touch back on like manifesting things inside of like clearing your space, getting clear on what you want, and really figuring out like the possibility and then going forward with persistence itself.
Yeah. I just think it's important, like we talk about it all the time, like doing the work, not skipping steps, and just staying consistent and persistent. I think that a lot of people, they'll say, well, I'm doing all these steps to my plan and I give up because my plans went south. And you're like, well, shift your gears and go where you feel like you should be going to follow your plan. You never know like what opportunities are open. And I think the main message is just like kind of stay consistent. And like for me, it's like follow my heart and my intuition, but like be able to logically back it up and not get stuck in like this emotional state.
Absolutely. So here's what I encourage you to do. Look at what you're doing right now inside of your life and your business. And if you see you're like, shit, I have actually literally put myself in a box because I thought I wanted to do this, I hated it, or I've been focused on this one goal so much. Rearrange, jig it, journal about it, meditate about it, do whatever you need to do to get yourself out of that box, and we will see you guys next week.